I'm Jamie Spitzer. Currently, I own a machine shop. Been doing that for about 27 years, and I'm also a certified professional wellness coach, specializing in individuals, groups, and relationships. I'm Jamie Spitzer. Currently, I own a machine shop in Wisconsin and been doing it for about 28 years. About maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was going through some personal struggles at work. I felt like my leadership skills were not great. I felt like we were struggling as a company to get to the next level. Just some background, I have no formal business management experience. I don't have a 4-year degree in an MBA. I basically went to school for mechanical design, and I learned on the fly how to run a business, and have been growing ever since. I basically started looking at ways and opportunities to grow who I am, and one of them was I started looking at the financial side of things, and started to go to some conferences, and I started to learn by doing that I could really improve how I was personally and how I was as a leader. And then I got really curious about what was next, and that's when I found Coach Training EDU and the life coaching arena, and it kind of sparked my interest, and I didn't really know what I was getting into. But as I started going along, I really started to see that it was beneficial to me personally. And I think that's where the core of it started, was just how do I get better? Because I can't serve anyone at the level I want to serve them if I don't understand myself first. So I did it more as a self-discovery, self-journey, and then I knew at some point, as I grew and learned, that I would be able to help other people. So the initial facts of starting was more about how do I serve others better in the future, was starting with myself first. The one thing that I've learned in this journey is that to have significance, you have to be in a good place. I think that there's a lot of self-discovery that has to go on. I think there's a lot of things that you personally have to deal with that a lot of times, we don't want to deal with. And I think that the impact that I've been able to make with people, and to be able to be in a place where I can provide that coaching, has come from my own journey. So I think the success and the rewards that I've seen have really started with myself, and then that kind of led it to me being a better coach, a better listener. So I think it kind of all starts with you as an individual. Becoming a coach never was the first thing at the front of my mind as far as life coaching went. I didn't even really know what it was. I mean, I've coached softball and I've coached basketball, and I coach people at work, and I help people with finances, but to some degree, I never really understood what life coaching was. I thought it was maybe a 4-year degree. I thought it was something that, you had to spend a lot of time going to school for. And then getting into it, I grew up in a household where there was struggles like everybody has. Then I got married and had 2 daughters, and my daughters went through high school and they struggled with self-worth, and I'm just not good enough. And I think to some degree I had that same struggle. I think there's people that they lie and they fake it till they make it, and they're just living day to day going everything's okay, but it's really not. So I think the inspiration came from maybe some of my own hardships, and as well as the people around me just not having the tools to navigate life, and to just a lot of people would say this is just the way it is, and I'm there has to be a better way. And I think coaching has led me to the tools. It has led me to the realization life is not, this is not what it is. It's just what it is right now. What it's going to be tomorrow is a totally different scenario. And I think the coaching side of things has just given me an outlook you can really make some you really can help people make a difference in their life. And that's, I guess, my number one focus is to try to help people find their best self. I've taken maybe a little different path than most once they do start coaching. Running a full-time business and, some of the other requirements I have in my life at this time, most of my work is done at a level of learning. And what I mean by that is I coach individuals from, grade school kids, high school kids, all the way up through college. And I spend a lot of time in groups. I'm actually trying to put a model together right now where we can implement coaching within groups and then have some of those folks as they learn that they then become some of the coaches for the next group. And we're just at this point, I'm trying to figure out, what works best for the client mostly. I'm finding that the power of story is something you can't replace. For instance, like I don't deal real well with personally, like I don't have a lot of support I can give someone on anxiety because I just don't feel very anxious at times. So what I look for is people in these groups that have transformed over months on getting better with their own anxiety. And then what they become is the power of our next meeting where they can actually share their story and inspire the next person to overcome anxiety. So I think that for me, I'm very slow to the business model of pay for services, get a website, all of that stuff traditionally that comes along with a business. And it's partially because I run a full-time machine shop and it takes a lot of my attention. At some point I will have a normal business model and that kind of thing. But right now I'm just trying to develop materials, work with clients, learn from them, see what the power of story does to transform lives, and then put it into a futuristic model of how it can transform, like, more people. Again, my thoughts are less about how much money I can make from coaching and more about how do you leave the biggest impact possible. So I started by getting into coaching, went through the different programs, the 1.0, the mentoring, the 2.0, then I just recently completed relationships. And I'm very hungry to learn. I never was like this, like all through high school and college, I wasn't real big on learning. I actually had a negative vibe towards it. Now that I've been in coaching, I can't really get enough of it. So as I go forward, my hope is that we can just continue to help people, because in today's world, getting the services for mental wellness is very, very difficult. There's a tremendous demand. There's a huge waiting list. I've been talking to many psychologists that I have as friends and social workers and just different people that help families. And I said to them, I said, we can't continue to fight this battle one-on-one. The coach and the client or the therapist and the client. It's definitely never going to go away, but in the largest majority of the population, like we just don't have enough time and resources to handle this. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to work collectively with that group and just say, hey, how do we go almost like AA does it, where we put groups together of similar issues, whether it be marital issues or it be career issues or whatever those issues may be. And what if we just went to groups, and what if we just tried to mentor people in mass quantities and then sent them home working on their homework? And now you got 10 at a time doing it, and those 10 at a time are impacting the family tree at some point. And I've done plenty of research so far that says when you coach an individual and they start to change the core of who they are, it starts to spread almost 100% to everyone in their families, their friend groups, the places they work. And I think that we just have to continue to think about being different than maybe the way the original model is, because to some degree the demand is breaking that model and there's too many people that are suffering because they can't get in. be ready to be uncomfortable. Not that there's anything wrong with that. So I told this to one of my groups that I coach. I said, you guys might look at me as, well, you're the coach and you got it all figured out. One day in our class, I said, well, I want to give you an update. I said, I got myself a coach. And they looked at me like I was crazy. Like, what do you need a coach for? And I'm like, I'm just a human being who struggles, who finally learned to admit that I can't do everything on my own, and that it's okay to ask for help. And so I would say that coaching is definitely has way more rewards than the negative of like, oh, I'm uncomfortable, or oh, I don't know what to expect, or oh, I'm going to have to be vulnerable, or just all of that stuff. But yeah, I would say that right now in the 27 years of running a business, the things that I remember are the conversations with people, the things that they've had traumatic happen in their life, and they show up in my office, or they text you on a Saturday saying, hey, I've had something bad happen, can I talk to you? I just think that the connection with people, there's too many people that are just, again, I think they're hiding because they don't know what else to do. And when you're able to help them really find out that they can be themselves, and it's really not too terribly painful, it's very, very rewarding. But yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is just the uncomfortableness of just the growth that you have to put in your own world to get to a place where you're like, okay, I know how people feel. Someone younger than me, I've had many of these conversations with high school athletes, sixth graders, seventh graders, kids that are just kind of getting started in life. We teach them all the time, like, you got to see your worth. You have to understand that no matter what the situation is, or no matter what anyone tells you, like, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe that you're worthy of whatever it is in life that you want to achieve. Now, again, will you achieve everything you can envision? Yeah, to some degree, I understand that you may not, but that doesn't mean you don't try. It doesn't mean you don't believe. It doesn't mean you don't work hard. I teach them a lot too, like, excuses are okay, but they can't be the continuum. They have to be like, today you're in a bad spot, so I'm going to make an excuse, and okay, we're going to address that. But then we don't continue to fall back on that excuse. We have to figure out why we're making it in the first place. So I think the biggest message I have for young kids is, definitely chase your dreams. But understand it's not just going to show up. Like, you got to go to work. And the other thing I think too is, it's okay to show some emotion. I think that's the other thing is, too many people, including myself, have been taught that, when you're in pain, throw some dirt on it, throw some gas on it, stop crying, don't be a baby. But at the end of the day, I think people just really need to know, like, what's the proper way to process an emotion? Like, how do I handle this? Don't just eat it. Eating it is not going to help, and it doesn't help bring you to where you want to be in life. So, yeah, so I think it kind of starts with how to take care of yourself. I think it leaves me speechless a lot. I think there's things that I can't even explain. Quite frequently, after a session with a group or an individual, like, the emotions are so heavy, not in a bad way, but it's just like you can't really explain it. Like, you're so filled with, you're so proud of them for all the work that they do. You got so much joy because you can see the transition over 2 or 3 meetings. And that's one thing I've learned, is that it doesn't take months or years of self-development work. It just basically takes a different perspective to change a life. So you could spend an hour with someone and they walk away going, wow, I never saw that. Right. So the power is just in the relationship, because the other thing I think a coach needs to understand is, if you go into every meeting, like, you're being called upon as a coach to solve a problem, or you're there to fix something. To some degree, that is true. But I think the other thing is that you learn as a coach just as much as you teach. And I think that's been very powerful for me is every single time I go into something, I walk out of there with, wow, I never thought of that, or I never saw that one coming. So that's the power in it too. And the learner in me now goes, I can't wait for another session because I can't wait to learn something. It's changing my family tree. It's fortunate or unfortunate, it goes home with you. It impacts my kids, my wife, all the people around me. It's not like I'm out, preaching and coaching like 24/7, but it gives you like such a different perspective, and you carry so many tools with you that when you see someone that's dealing with a situation, while you're empathetic and you sit with them, you're also able to say, hey, like if you would consider or you want to grow or you're looking for a better perspective, here's some things to think about. And our whole family has grown a ton together and individually. And now we're not better than everybody else. We're better together, and we're able to just help more people. And at the end of the day, I think that's what we want anyway. We want to feel like we're important. We want to feel like we can contribute. We want to feel like we're leaving an impact. And at the end of the day, I think for everybody, they just want to feel valued. They want to feel needed. They want to feel important. And for a lot of us, we're trying to do that through money, through a chase in a career. Maybe it's the number of degrees we get, but at the end of the day, I mean, you hear it all the time. They do interviews with people who are retired and they have a multi-million-dollar nest egg and they're miserable, and they're just miserable. And I just personally, I think my passion is go to bed feeling like you lived today, feeling like you left it all on the table, and feeling like tomorrow is going to be even better. That I didn't need to wear a Superman cape, that I didn't need to fix everything, that I didn't need to be responsible for everything. And I'm learning that through having my own coach now. Like each week I'm learning something new, different perspective, different tools, applying them to my own life. And I will say that it's made me a lot more compassionate too. I mean, I've always had a big heart and cared for other people, but I think now I can step back and not necessarily coach the problem, but spend a lot more time on the person, and sit with them and just be present and be okay with that. Where I always felt this pressure when I first started coaching, like I got to fix the issue. Like, they're relying on me to help them fix the problem. And so that's a lot different now. The people at Coach Training EDU have been great. I mean, the staff has been amazing. The coaches have been awesome. I've never had one session in all my sessions that I've had, and I've been doing it for years, where I've walked away going, wow, like I'm not sure I want to go back. Each week you always look forward to the roughly 2 hours that you spent with the team. And so yeah, the materials have been great. I can't say enough about the resources because I was one of the first people to take the relationship course, and I was blown away by the number of resources. So each week we'd have a class, and then there was all the resources that were connected, and you'd print these articles and the research behind it, and it was like, oh my God, like I'm going to be reading forever, which was cool, right? Because sometimes you just don't get enough information. So yeah, I took the 1.0 and scratch my head and go, what am I doing? And I stuck with it, and I got through the uncomfortable. And then I went to mentoring and 2.0, and I'm like, man, relationship. And now I'm looking at the health board certification class. And it's just like, I don't even look anywhere else. I'm going back to the home where, the people who taught me to be a better person, and that's where I'm going to live. there's been some for myself, and I think one of them was centered around, um, like I'm a person who likes to feel very busy. Like I don't sit still and I don't sleep very much, so I'm constantly like got to do something. And I would say in the last probably 3 months, I've been coached into thinking about different perspectives, and I've really been playing a lot with those, and I'm learning that the noise I've been creating in my life is really not necessary. That I can be okay with just sitting. I can be okay with, not working 15-hour days, and just, I guess, living in the moment a little bit more. So for me, that's been transformative because I mean, I've been running most of my life and spending a lot of time working. I would say aha on the other side of the table, which is with the clients, is I think they teach me an aha moment. Um, I would say almost weekly. Um, because when their light bulb goes off and you see their smile, or you see the tears that they share, and they are able to overcome something, and you had a small piece of that, it's like, wow, like that's one I'll never forget. The diverse community from all walks of life, all over the country, different countries, like it's been pretty awesome. I didn't know how, because I'm not a virtual guy, so before COVID, there wasn't a lot of this. I mean, I know it was present, but I'm a more of a hands-on, face-to-face kind of person. And we got into this virtual stuff, and I'm like, oh, how's this gonna go? Like, I got to take these classes, and they're virtual. Like, how am I gonna like talk to someone? So, but I learned in a quick hurry. Like, man, this is pretty cool. Like, I would never be able to talk to someone from this state or this country, but with this program, I could, and so it was great because then the other thing that developed was some little friendships, right? So you meet people in class or whatever it may be, and then all of a sudden they're sending you an email like, "Hey, could I talk to you about this one thing we talked about in class, or you got a little group project that you want to work on, or whatever it may be." So yeah, I really enjoyed it. That's one of the things that I do miss is just the community. I think that if I were to reach out, we probably could start one, or I could become part of one. But again, I don't want to join one and then not be able to support the group I'm in. So I want to make sure that I am conscious of my own time and their time too. So, but yeah, I can't say enough because they've helped change who I am. If you're a creative person, I would say whether you're artistic or you work in manufacturing or you are in healthcare or you work in restaurant services, it doesn't really matter where you work. It doesn't even matter how old you are. You could be retired. You could be, a senior in high school. You could be just going into college. It really doesn't matter. The reason I bring up the creative piece is what I found is that if you have a creative brain, this is a great profession. This is a great place to live because everything that you're working on is constantly requiring you to be creative. You're creative in your thoughts, you're creative in materials that you might put together. One thing I found is that for me personally, I have like hundreds of worksheets that I've built based on feedback that I've gotten from clients. Like, I look for this resource and I can't find it, or I'm struggling with this right now and I don't know how to open that box up and really take a look at it. So you're able to sit down with a blank sheet of paper and come up with a way for them to navigate that. Give it to them, let them go through it, and then you work together on designing what's best for not only them but for maybe your future clients. So I would say if you have this artistic flair to you, definitely consider coaching because it'll really allow you to be super creative.